Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners like you to maximize your business value and achieve the exit of your dreams, whatever that means to you. With insights gained from over 100 business transactions, we share real-world strategies, lessons, and expert advice to help you build long-term, sustainable value in your business. Each episode is hosted by one of our Mastery certified partners. They're seasoned experts who've helped countless business owners navigate the complexities of growth, scaling, and building value. They bring first-hand experience, actionable insights, and a passion for helping you build a business that thrives. So let's dive in.
This episode is the second of a two-part release. To hear part one, follow the link below. Thank you for listening to the Maximize Business Value podcast.
As you know, we've got business owners that we deal with that are in every type of imaginable business.
Right.
I came from the technology world like you did, and when I started to do this, I just knew that I'd be on the team as being the technology specialist. And when we came across a company that was a technology related company, that I would be the best fit and obviously, ready to help them. Um, I don't have a single client that's in the technology world. I have clients that are in worlds like steel fabrication, uh, home HVAC dealers, equine genetics. So, I
Wow.
mean, you just name it, and things that are radically outside my knowledge base or anything. But the important thing I've learned is that we are not working with that business owner to make them a better HVAC company or a better equine genetics company. We're working with them on the business aspects of the company and the things that make the business itself be better and more valuable. And that's where I think, again, your background's perfect for that. But that's the and seeking someone that understands that I may be the smartest guy in the room when it comes to steel fabrication. I may not be the smartest guy in the room when it comes to HR management or finance or sales and marketing programs. And that's where I think we can help identify, and figure out how we can help those folks. An interesting statistic based on what you just said is well over 60%, nearly 70% of our current active clients are women-owned, women-led businesses. And when we stopped and tried to analyze that, we only have a single woman advisor on our team. And she said, "Oh, it's real simple." She said, "Women are much more coachable than men. They're just not as hard-headed, and they're just not as they're looking for solid answers. They'll put aside their, I'm the smartest person in the room stuff." So I thought that was pretty well thought out.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
fun stuff. Well, I'll flip the question around and just say, other than what I just described, um, what 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 is your identification of a real successful partnership with a client, and what comes of that? Where have you seen the greatest? You felt like you made the greatest difference.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever thought about it in those terms. Um, I believe that all of our interactions with other people are an opportunity to both teach and learn. And I always go into any opportunity, any relationship with a business owner with that mindset. There are industries that I know nothing about that I've really had an opportunity to learn about by being working with someone who lives it every day.
Yeah.
Um, and um, that's really the thing that creates the most
the most fun, the most engagement for me is to be around people who I learn from, as well as the ability to coach them or teach them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing that real time right now with a new client. We've only had a few meetings, and he's frankly overwhelmed. He's got way more work and way more way more on his plate than he has a team to support or take care of the clients. And he's of course our take on that is that's not unusual. A lot of the people we get involved with are particularly owner-led businesses. The owner is kind of the center of the universe, and they either inadvertently or on purpose have put themselves in that position, and it makes it tough. And I said, is there any way for if you got a short-term need, do you have anybody in the industry you can call and help and say, hey, I just need to borrow a couple of technicians for a week to get over this hump? And he looks at me and he goes, that's not our industry. It is wildly cutthroat. You know, that just does not happen. And I'm like, okay, because in my
Yeah.
world, I was in the IT services business. I knew all my competitors well, and we worked. I won't say we were hand in hand, but if a big project came up, we would almost invariably. We're not price fixing or anything, but we'd kind of talk about it. If there's three or four of us that are going to be bidding on it, we say, well, who really has the best chance of getting this deal? Because I don't want to spend all my cycles running after a deal that I know the guy across the street is going to get the deal because he's just the best suited. So, if anything, I'll just tell him if you get the deal and you need some extra manpower, I'll rent my guys to you. It's that kind of thing. And we did that all the time, helped each other
Wow.
out. But not every industry runs that way.
No, 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 they do not. It's very insightful. That's
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great way that you're looking at it, though. So in terms of your approach. And uh, and again, most of the people that watch or listen to this podcast are familiar with Mastery Partners, familiar with what we do. That
mhm.
we really we examine every aspect of a business, and we identify those areas that need improvement, and if we kind of score that on what will that improvement mean when we do that. And when we actually help that business owner make those changes or do those things to improve that area of the business, how will that affect the value of the business? What will be the most, so you want to concentrate on the things that are going to have the most impact. In your experience, what areas have you seen where a positive change has a more than large impact at the other end? Just small things that you can do to make a big impact.
I think step number one is finding out what those small things are.
Mhm.
Um, um,
And that's our analysis part. Yeah,
exactly.
our word for that is the transition readiness analysis,
Mhm.
where we dig in. Yeah.
So um, let me harken back to my EOS days. Um, I think EOS is a great system. It's also, uh, in my mind, it's prescriptive. So it follows a process. You start with step one, you go to step two, you end up at step seven or eight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went into companies and said, okay, we're here today to start with step one.
Mm.
And when people started talking, I realized instantly that there were other things that needed to be had to be paid attention to.
We've got a new step one.
That's exactly right. Because if we don't, if it's like triage,
Yeah.
if we don't address this in the fair short term,
Yeah.
nothing else is going to make any difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so uh, that worked both ways for me. It really was a double-edged sword. On one hand, I knew that that ground had to be covered before anything else that I wanted to talk about would make sense. On the other hand, I wanted to uh, try to stay pure, so to speak, with the EOS process. Um, and that's just a function, as we've talked about already, that's just a function of having grown up in a different business environment
Yep.
and talking with someone and understanding within a few minutes that there are some areas that really need immediate attention.
Yeah.
So I would be incapable of looking past that, but I try to incorporate it into my overall approach to working with any business owner.
And I thought about that. Well, I encountered it a lot. I was only in the Fortune 500 world for 4 years. And then I struck off when I went to work for a small company for about 2 years and then struck off on my own right after that. So I only had 6 years of working for someone else, I guess is the way to put it. And but those 4 years in the corporate world taught me a lot. And what it really taught me at that level, and I'm sure you saw this being an IBM account manager, um, your your team and IBM had systems and processes that were incredibly well respected and effective, and the client company knew that and depended on that, and they had their own systems and processes that they used, but they were at a high level. We're talking Fortune level companies. If you're dealing with Johnson and Johnson, for example, you're dealing with a high level company that you know their culture, you kind of know the way that they do things, and you kind of build your program around that somewhat, and they understand what you guys do at a high level. With small businesses, it's scattered. I mean, and that's where
Right.
EOS, I think, is such a powerhouse because it takes those big company processes down to a small company. But it's never, and we have the same challenges, I think. One of the things that we like about Mastery is that our systems and processes is kind of parallel EOS. So when we identify opportunity areas, things that need to be addressed, they become rocks or to-dos for that business owner. And we plug those into their EOS model. Even if they don't are not using EOS, we kind of introduce that model to them and encourage them to use some business operating system, whether it's EOS or any of the others. There's validity, and I think in most of them, but we try to do that, and uh, it's just that it's interesting the way you're expressing things. I can just see that that's going to fit so well with the way we do things at Mastery.
Good.
Uh, and
Good.
uh, and the other thing I think and again, I'll just share at our advanced ages that we have, we've kind of seen a lot of this before. It's not going to be new. And I just love, if people will accept the fact that I might know something or have seen something before. It's not that, again, I'm not going to tell them how to run their business or, anything about the subject matter of their business, but it's more about I may have encountered this problem before and a few different answers.
Agreed. And I think pace is very important in that context because some people, some business owners and leadership teams want to move at lightning speed, and
Yeah.
others don't want to move hardly at all. And that creates its own opportunity or its own problem. And moving too fast can create as many problems as
Yeah.
moving too slowly.
I have a client that exactly that happened. We did the analysis. We found the things he kind of knew. I mean, he'd been running the company for over 10 years and he kind of knew where the issues were. And we kind of confirmed those things. Yeah, we need to address this. We need to address that. Well, in 1 year, he tried to address everything, and he got a little bit over his skis.
Yeah.
So as we came toward the end of that year, I said, where do you think we're going to end up? And he says, we're going to end up, we had a pretty decent profit last year. We're not going to be there this year because we've been investing in all this stuff that you told me
Right.
we need to do. And I said, well, maybe we shouldn't have done it all at once. and and I said, profitability is pretty important. So let's and so we backed off, and we
Indeed.
backed off in several areas. And I think everything's going to even out. They'll be fine. But it's the opposite is that business owner that boy, they know they need to make a change, but it's like maybe next quarter, maybe next quarter, maybe next quarter. Yeah.
I also think, from my experience, that um, one of the overriding problems across the business owner spectrum is discipline.
Yeah.
Uh, Many of the systems that we've talked about, or I mean, going back to Vern Harnish and Gino Wickman, and um,
Yeah.
uh, many of these systems, uh, the primary thing that they do is instill discipline, um, which is really in my mind, one of the major keys to business success.
Yeah.
You, there's a certain amount of um, chaos in the business owner's world, which people romanticize. I started at 3 o'clock this morning and I finished at 8 o'clock last night. I'm not sure I got anything done.
Yeah.
Uh, and people think, wow, what a fulfilling dynamic environment. Nah, not necessarily. So having
It's
the
like flying for business travel. It's fun there for a moment.
yes, yes, yeah, exactly, exactly. So the ability to, or the willingness to be open
Yeah.
uh, to a disciplined approach really makes a difference, I think.
Yeah. And that's boy, that's so important. And if nothing else, we can probably say paint the picture of, believe it or not, someone else has tried this same thing, and we did learn from that, and there might be a third way, or something. There's something in there. So the in terms of are there particular industries that you prefer or you like to work with, or is it just super broad based?
Uh, at the highest level, I'm agnostic about it.
Mhm.
Um, I'm because of my background, I'm very familiar with manufacturing and with process control and things like that.
Mm.
But I would almost rather get involved in an industry I know nothing about, because then as I learn about it from working with the owner and the leadership team, um, I can ask dumb questions.
Yeah.
And I think asking dumb questions is really important, because
Okay, I agree.
it's very easy to gloss over something
Mhm.
because everybody thinks everybody knows that. And there's nothing better than to stop when someone is saying something and just say, "Could you tell me more about that? I really want to understand how that works."
Yeah, and I'm pretty good at that, or have gotten better at that. Let's put it that way. Because again, in part of our process, when we do this analysis, and this is a big differentiator for Mastery Partners. There's many companies that I think hang out their shingle as we are value advisors. We'll help you increase the value of your company. The process that we have, the four-step process, I think is unique in terms of the way it's applied. But as we go through the analysis, we are covering well over 300 data points in every aspect of the business, everything from formation to any type of transition planning that's been done, and everything in between. So legal, financial, sales, marketing, product, operations, HR, I mean, culture, I mean, everything. And I find myself when I'm doing that one of the hardest disciplines for me is I'll ask a question, I'll get an answer, and I know there's a lot more to that answer, but that's not the time to dig into it. I just need to write that answer down and mark it. We need to talk more about this, and so it is, and it is fascinating to learn all these different businesses and how they
Oh,
operate and the markets and the world that they live in, and why they founded the company, why they've been successful or not, or kind of what it looks like, and so that to me. I think I consider myself a lifelong learner as well, and
good,
it
good.
is so fascinating to watch how all that stuff fits together, and hopefully that comes across when we're working with the client, that they understand we have we're not just there. We have a real interest in them, you know.
Yeah, exactly. When a great example is your example of equine genetics.
Yeah,
I would love to know about that. I would spend 2 hours listening to those folks
yeah,
free of charge,
yeah,
just
yeah.
because they would get tired of my questions,
Oh
but I would
gosh.
love to talk with
Yeah.
them about
Yeah, and that's a fascinating deal. That was his project, Keystone project when he was in college.
it. Oh,
And his professor said, I think you could make a business out of that. And sure enough, he did. So that's pretty wild. And now one of the most respected in the nation. So it's crazy. Um, well, cool. I'm trying to think of other areas. I want to say this gently. Sometimes I ask my younger interviewees, things about, what are you looking forward to learning, so on. But it's no, it's I think that hopefully the our listeners have got a good feel for Gil Bean and what you're all about, and I think that that's going to be so important when people engage with Mastery Partners. I think there's an expectation. We're going to be very professional. We don't take the attitude that we know it all. We're there to listen, and we're there to note places where we think we might be able to help. And the other thing that we do well, I think, is we corral resources from everywhere. Um, as I mentioned with the Business Transition Summit, when we form those boards, we've got great deep connections throughout the nation in all different areas, including like wealth folks that do wealth
sure.
management, folks that are fractional CFOs, fractional CPAs, people that really support the business community and at the highest level. And that's I think a big add that we bring to the table. And I know you've got a lot of those relationships as well, which is super. And that's the type of thing I think our clients are looking for.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. Well, great. Any questions that you have for your questioner? So
No, I had resigned myself to the fact that I'll have to talk about myself here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's probably not a bad thing. You have to get over that.
uh, maybe when I'm older.
See. Well, next time we'll just go into, okay, where were you born? Where were you raised? What are your kids up to? I mean, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
All the things that, inquiring minds want to know.
Exactly. Well, you've made this very easy,
That's
Dave. I
super.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great, great, great. Well, and I'll just remind our listeners and viewers that this is called Maximize Business Value. This is a podcast for business owners that are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in your business. Can't think of a better way to do that than engaging with somebody like Gil Bean. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah. So thanks again for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Dave. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Maximize Business Value podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas on how you can continue driving value in your business. But remember, it's not just about listening. It's about taking massive action. Visit our website, masterypartners.com, for more resources. Grab a copy of any of the books in the Maximize Business Value series on Amazon or via the links below. And don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know how to apply these concepts to your business. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to relentlessly execute while you maximize business value.